ancient dread. A terror that can stalk any of us. It has lived among us probably about as long as we have been humans. It has certainly lived among us as long as we have worked together. I myself have seen this terror stalk the halls of the places where I have worked. It is called the Performance Improvement Plan. Or PIP. Actually, it probably has many names. Employee Improvement Plan, Employee Job Improvement Plan. Every now and then they soften it and they'll call it the Employee Development Plan because you're being developed, not improved or just told you need to do something else. And I bet many of you know what these are. I'm hearing the chuckles out there. And nobody's usually thrilled about these when they come out. Either the person who's bringing them out or the person who's receiving them. Like most institutional forms of communication, they have good aspects and bad aspects. They can be done well and they can be done poorly. Fundamentally, what they are is a way that we try to work out our disagreements and challenges in our places of work. Being together as humans is one of our most challenging tasks that we have as a species. We are inherently social creatures, but we are also distinct individuals with wonderful things and other things as well. And social challenges and challenging people are some of the most tiring and difficult challenges that we will face in our day-to-day life together. And we find these challenges everywhere. We find them in churches, which is what Matthew is describing in the Gospel of Matthew. We find them at work, definitely. We find them, we can squabble among friends. When I was a teenager, I remember some epic squabbles between very good friends. And families, as wonderful as they are also really known and maybe even notorious as places for, shall we say, difficult social challenges. The Gospel of Matthew is often called the Gospel of the Church. And the reason it is called that is because Matthew is very, very concerned in this Gospel to detail and uncover what it means to be a community under Christ. So, today we get the three-part, Jesus-style Performance Improvement Plan, or PIP. 1. If another member of the church sins against you, go and point out the fault when the two of you are alone. 2. But if you are not listened to, take one or two others along with you. See if that works. 3. If the member refuses to listen to even them, tell it to the church. And if the member refuses to listen even to the church, let such a one be to you as a Gentile and a tax collector. On the one hand, I could almost stop my sermon right here. Done, good. It's good, basic advice. We can all use it. Go talk to the person who has offended you one-on-one. That often really does work. But if that doesn't, enlist a couple of folks who can maybe help them understand what's going on a little bit better, improve the communication. And failing that, see if you can get the whole community to help them to see the error of their ways. And if all of that fails, then you probably might have to move on, let the person transition to another community. As we used to say when I worked in a regular job, transition to the competition. Of course, this is a lot harder to do than it sounds. It's really, really difficult to talk to someone who has been offensive, who has hurt your feelings. It's even harder to find other folks who want to go along with you to have these difficult conversations. And part 3 sounds really, really unpleasant. No fun at all. Most of us would really rather avoid the conflict, even if we know it's necessary. So here we have something that's really hard to do. It doesn't even necessarily sound particularly Christian. It kind of just sounds like good advice. And I think what we want to do in our lives and the way we live is be Christian. We want to have that inform everything we do and everywhere that we do it. When we work, when we're among our friends, when we're at home. So why would we follow this advice? Well, we do it because this is Jesus' guide to God's great work of reconciliation. The goal of God and our mission in the Episcopal Church is to, and I quote, restore all people to unity with God and each other in Christ. You can look it up, page 855 of that little red book in front of you in the pews. Learn it, live it, love it. That is God's work. That is our work, reconciling. And Jesus makes this clear that this is our work and God's work in his next sentences. Truly, I tell you, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. There's a connection between the work that we are doing here in our day-to-day lives and the divine work that God is carrying out in the world. We actually heard this just a little bit before. Jesus said it to Peter when Peter recognized him as the Messiah. And so hearing it again now, we learn that all the work we do, not just the work Peter did, is actually divine. All the work of reconciliation we do is divine. What we do on earth is mirrored in heaven. It is part of the divine process. I'm going to get a little metaphorical on you, but I think Jesus' preaching allows it. We work to bind each other together. And we also work to loosen the knots that get in the way of the ties that bind. God is always doing that. And the work that we do here is not really something necessarily to dread, even if it's hard, but actually something we can think of with a little bit of joy. I admit sometimes it's a realistic joy, but we can have that in our hearts because we are doing divine work. It's not just a good thing to do. It's led by Christ. It is, in fact, Christian work. And it happens everywhere. The Greek word that is translated in what we heard today as member of the church, the word in Greek that's actually used is adelphoi. And so for the Greek scholars out there, you're going to immediately recognize that that is brothers. It's the Greek word for brothers. And brothers in English has a wide variety of meanings, and it actually did in Greek as well. It could mean blood kin, members of your tribe, and certainly it meant members of the Christian community, which is what Jesus was focusing on here. But I think Jesus picked that word, because there are other Greek words for those other things. Jesus picked that word because it has a broad range of meanings. It means that this work takes place among our brothers and sisters, in our families, among members of our tribes, between tribes, in our workplaces. All the reconciliation we do, no matter where we do it, is divine work. And it never ends. The possibility of reconciliation is always there. Even the very harsh excommunication language that Jesus uses. Let such a one be to you as a Gentile and a tax collector. Even that harsh language is worth looking at carefully. Do we remember any other tax collectors in the gospel, such as Matthew, such as Jesus' disciple? Do we remember other Gentiles being healed, such as the Canaanite woman's daughter, or the Syrophoenician woman's daughter? We've heard all of these things quite recently. being outside is never permanent. In God's social system, everyone is always welcome back in. Everyone has a chance to be brought back. Loosen the knots so that we can bind each other together. Seek God in each other. Seek reconciliation in each other. I'm going to just hazard a guess that we may, prior to my arrival and everything becoming perfect, we may have had some disagreements between us here in this church. It's inevitable. We're human. But what is divine is reconciliation. So let us work as a community to find reconciliation whenever we have differences. We're going to face difficult people wherever we work, where we play, and in our families. And when we remember that what we seek is God's performance improvement plan, and that plan is reconciliation, it's being bound back together. And when that's what we are trying to do, then we are showing the world what it means to be Christian. And people will want to join us. And most important, we must always remember that even when things cannot be reconciled at the moment, in the here and now, separation does not always have to be permanent. We hold open our hearts like God's heart is always open. We loosen the knots. We work them out. We welcome everyone back in so that we may be bound together as we are bound to God.